Welcome in, everybody, to a little different, always off-brand today. It's what I like to call People Matter. We talk about People Matter, but this is a different kind of show. And we're glad you're with us. I hope you enjoy it. It could be an absolute train wreck, to be honest. This could be the worst idea actually ever. I don't really know, but you're going to know who we're talking to today on the YouTube, always off brand. Of course, wherever you're listening around the world, actually, and a big part of why the world. But typically when you listen to our guests, this is what you usually hear.
And I'm an e-commerce strategy consultant helping first-party vendors elevate their profit margins on Amazon. This is the number one mistake that I see a lot of my clients make before they are starting to work with me, that they're just saying yes, or that they're almost in this shocked situation and don't know what to do. The best thing that can happen to you in this case is if you just say no.
If you're in the mid-market segment, or if you do not have a designated vendor manager and you see these automated requests for margin compensation, or even Amazon suppressing your product detail pages,
their margin. So the kind of temporary fix would be to give Amazon a cost support agreement, yes, but this doesn't necessarily help you if you see that the margin of a certain item has structurally deteriorated. Typically, Amazon conducts the largest changes to its business model on the back of the fourth and the first quarter.
Oh, that's what you usually hear. That is what you usually hear. But today, you're not going to hear any of that. We might get a little of that, and that's smart advice. Ladies and gentlemen, bringing the stage again, Martin Heubel. I feel like we met when we started this in 21. I think you were one of the first people who came on the show.
Yeah, I think I reached out to you via LinkedIn, right? And was just very interested in what you were doing with the Always Off Brand podcast, and was very intrigued. And then when we had a chat before the first episode, I think we went to it was very interesting to see what you were doing and to kind of find ways to come together.
Yeah, so today's thing is I put that clip together because that's what you normally hear from Martin Heubel, or where you normally read from him on LinkedIn, which he's a rock star, superstar. He's kind of become one of the leading voices in the vendor central community globally around the world. But you know what? I don't really care about that today. What I want to know, Martin, is what's up with you, man? Where'd you come from? The accent gives a little bit of away, but I mean, honestly, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your parents, if you have siblings. Not, I mean, I tried to do some crack research. So shout out you, Martin Heubel. You guys are locked down. The Heubel family locked down.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a bit of background, of course. I mean,
tell me where you grew up. Tell me about your family.
As most of you can probably hear, like by my accent, originally from Germany, grew up in a fairly small town, maybe like with 8,000 to 10,000 inhabitants, fairly remotely in the countryside, in Western Germany, just an hour out of Frankfurt or Mainz, depending what that means to you, and if you're aware of the German geography. So I had a very, quiet childhood, almost like very remote in the countryside. I think very secluded, almost like a little bit of a bubble.
Now, what about your parents? What brought you there? Your family's been there forever?
So my family has quite an interesting history, because my parents, they grew up in Eastern Germany when Germany was still divided. And they came over to the west and western part once the wall was actually falling in 98. So my sister, she's roughly 9 years older than I am. She was born in Eastern Germany. I was only born when my parents were already in the western part. And for me, I basically grew up in the western part of Germany from all of my childhood, which was quite interesting, I think, because, again, my parents went through a lot of change, right? I mean, you had the Soviet Union basically dictating a lot of what happens in Eastern Germany. So they were very careful with, who they associated themselves with, because almost everyone around them was reporting to the state. And then in Western Germany, obviously the opposite was true in the 90s, right? You had a reunited Germany. You had a lot of hope in this country that things would turn to the better and for the better. So my childhood was really kind of impressed by this positive kind of attitude, and that change is certainly possible.
That way you're so positive? Is that why you're always so positive?
I try to be. I try to be. My mom was a retired teacher. My dad is a retired dentist. So
it was a dentist?
Yeah.
So they're in West Germany. So they're in West Germany. Then they're in East Germany, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna get out of here. This is great. The wall comes down. You know, the great Ronald Reagan. You know, tear down that wall or whatever.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
So they go to West Germany, and then they are practicing. They're a dentist and a teacher at the time when they moved?
Yeah, exactly. So my dad was a dentist at the time. I mean, he then set up shop basically in Western Germany, formed or joined another dentistry, and they formed a partnership. So he set foot here. And my mom was a teacher at the time. And then she, over different ways, also helped out in the practice of my dad, but was also a teacher for, I think, history as well as Russian at the time.
Ooh.
So quite an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, how many language can you throw out right now? What are we at?
I mean, I think in school I learned French, but there's not much left from it anymore. I can speak German and English mostly.
Okay, well, you're Portuguese, right? I thought your Portuguese is coming on.
My wife is Portuguese, so nice. I had 20 weeks of elementary Portuguese, which turned out to be quite difficult. I mean, I think I had it still easier because she did the same and she had 20 weeks of German classes. So
we missed each other. I was in Portugal a couple summers ago. We missed each other, but I was, I came back with like nothing. I came back with bom dia. I think that's it.
Yeah. It is. I think it's easier to learn than German for sure.
Okay.
Right? But you need to really put your mind to it.
Well,
I think it's easier when you have free time.
When we talked, again, I don't know if we've had this over the years, but again, Yiddish, right? I grew up Jewish, so Yiddish. I grew up in a very Yiddish house because the immigrants, my mother lived with a grandmother who spoke nothing but Yiddish. Anyway, it was a big thing. So the friends who I have who grew up in Germany, we would always have fun because Yiddish is a big derivative off of the German language. So a lot of times it's easy, if I say Mashugana, I mean, these people Mashugana, right? Well, you know what that means, and you're not, right?
Mashugana?
I don't know. You don't know Mashugana?
I don't think so.
How about the whole Mashbucha?
I'm out of that.
Mashugana is crazy. Mashbucha, again, now I'm wondering about your German. Have you lost your German?
Most certainly, I think.
Okay, so let's get back to you. You grow up there. I mean, you're just a little kid. Now you have one sibling. Your sister's 9 years older.
Yeah, correct. So she was, when I was born, she was 9.5 years old.
Yeah. So again, you're a semblance. I have that. You're basically an only child. Let's just be real, right? Because that's a huge difference.
It is.
I mean, that's not throwing shade, or that's really because she's 9. You're born by the time you're 9. I mean, she's already 18. I mean, look at my little brother, Martin.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the age difference plays a role into that. I think. The age difference was significant also because my sister moved out, of course, when she was 18. So just when I turned like 9, 10 years old, which are usually the more formative years when you're having a sibling, right? But I think our relationship improved a lot over the years, particularly when I became a teenager and visited my sister. So.
You visited her
as like an only child because you still get to spend time with her and obviously have a good time.
No, I know. I mean, I had an older sister, not quite 9, but again, I'd go visit her at college, and man, we would hoop it up. Let me just tell you. Okay, all bets were off. She was not a good influence. Let me just say it that way. She was not a good influence to me. Okay, so you grow up there, but you don't know at the time the Eastern West, like you're not, right? You're a kid, you're just having a good time, you're playing. Did you play sports? What were you into? Did you do other activities? Were you just looking at spreadsheets when you were 10? I mean, what were you doing?
I didn't even know what Excel was. Thank God. I think nobody should really know it when they're a child or even teenager.
Or now, actually. Email. I always said if I get rid of 2 work things, email and spreadsheets, I'd be good. I'd be happy.
Yeah, I think I had a very, very satisfying childhood. I mean, look, it was in the countryside. There wasn't too much going on. I
Did you
played
have
various
animals? Did you have,
sports.
like, farm animals? I mean, what do we? No, I mean, just in the
Well, I
country.
mean, I was living in a small city, so town or village. So it wasn't like a village with only like 10 houses and everyone
Okay.
has sheep or geese or whatever. No, it wasn't like that. I mean, we were
Okay.
living in a standard house. It was like 8 to 10,000 inhabitants of that city, so
But
fairly large. But you had a lot of villages around it where if you wanted, you were in the forest within like a 5-minute walk, right? But if you wanted to be
right.
in the city, you could also either drive by bicycle or go by car, and you're in the middle of the city center.
You had a
But I
nice
also think,
childhood.
like,
You had a
as
middle.
a kid, you also don't have necessarily many needs, right? Or at least
Yeah.
I didn't think I have many needs. I mean, you don't want an iPhone or anything like kids nowadays want. It just didn't exist back in the 90s. You basically wanted to get maybe the newest Pokemon cards, and this was your kind of need as a child to be cool in class. Which I think is so. I think money didn't necessarily play a role, or I don't
Okay.
feel that it played a real role in my childhood or when also growing up.
But what were you into? What activities were you into? I mean, what did you enjoy doing?
Different things. I mean, of course, hanging out with friends. In terms of sports, I tried multiple things like playing handball, playing basketball. I think at some point I even tried with school to play tennis for like 1 or 2 years. So I think I wasn't too stuck on one kind of hobby or one kind of thing per se. And only when I moved out of school, I started to find more interest for things like biology. And originally, because my dad was, of course, in the world of medicine,
Yeah.
and I was part of the last class, so to say, where it was still mandatory to do your civil service or to go to the military. I
Oh,
decided
really?
to go and basically get the education for a paramedic, which was basically a fast lane program for 3 months. So you would go basically into hospitals. You would have to kind of pass certain exams, and then you could be basically semi-certified paramedic and assist the kind of more mature paramedics and doctors to respond in first aid. And I did that for almost 2 years. So this taught me a lot also about what matters really in life, which is usually your health, you know?
Hold on a second while I just let that wash over me. So you didn't go to university. Again, a lot of the things is right. You go to university typically, but you were still you had to go into the military. And so you were a paramedic as part of the military thing?
Yeah. I mean, you could choose to either go to the military or to do your civil service.
Oh,
And
okay. That's what you did.
yeah,
Okay. So 2 years,
exactly.
you're a paramedic, you're saving lives. Now you're saving margin. Now you were saving lives before. This is all informative to me.
Yeah. I mean, you needed to do it, I think, for 8 or 9 months mandatorily, but I extended it to 2 years because I simply didn't know what I wanted to do with my life yet. Right. So you come out of school, you're very kind of green behind your ears. And for me,
Yeah.
it was like a little bit of a formative period where I didn't know what really to pursue. My dad wanted me to, of course, go into the direction of studying medicine, but I wanted to dip my feet first into the water and understand if that's even something that I would really enjoy doing. So doing this fast track education to become a paramedic in Germany was certainly the opportunity that enabled me to pursue exactly that and taught me a lot about what matters in life, right? I mean, I think nowadays in our society, we sometimes lose track of what really is important and what isn't, right? And we have a lot of first world problems where we think,
yeah.
or where we're always getting depressed because we don't have the newest iPhone, we don't have the newest thing that is now being marketed. But if you're actually talking to elderly people, if you're actually talking to people who have certain impact on their health or have had a certain impact on their health, then you realize that just living a very peaceful and healthy life is the wealth that we should really all aspire to.
So you come out of there, you do but you are getting into medicine. I mean, Dad wanted you to get into medicine, and so you got into medicine. But I'm sure there's a lot of stories you have to that. It's some crazy situations. I have a friend whose daughter is a paramedic, and I mean, from one extreme to the other, right? There's just randomness to that job, right? So then 2 years of that, then how did you, then you're like, oh God, I still don't really know what I want to do, which is very common, but you're like, I don't want to be a dentist. I mean, where are we?
I mean, when I was a paramedic, what I realized after doing it for roughly 24 months is that I think this wasn't a trajectory that I wanted for my life going forward. Because yes, you're doing a lot of good things, but I think the part of the job that is not enough talked about is that you're also peeking behind a lot of closed curtains, which are not so nice, right? Whether it is health related, whether it is
I love
the situations that you're getting into.
It's a shit show. You see the worst of humankind. You see the worst, and sometimes by choice, sometimes by not. You see people at their absolute. It's devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I then made the decision of, okay, maybe, I mean, for me, it wasn't really the career that I wanted to pursue for the rest of my life. So I decided to just kind of start studying in the field of business economics. Started doing that in Cologne.
Whoa. So you come off the truck, you come off the paramedic, you put the stretcher down and the EKG, and you're like, I want to go into business economics. Oh, come on, Martin.
I was always interested in the dynamics of. So since I was 13, I always was kind of creating and designing websites. So I was always into the marketing side of stuff. You know, this was always like a passion of mine. And when you were able to kind of write this very crappy and scrappy HTML, I was basically given a laptop when I was, I think, 13 or 14, or I could use the one from my parents, and then started to kind of play around with it, made friends online who were a little bit further ahead than me, and then taught myself basically how to do it.
There you go.
So there was a background, so to say, to
so
that.
That's what I was interested. I'm like, the beautiful nerdiness of all of us, like that's where it started, right? I mean, that's where you're like, oh, this is interesting. Again, same thing. I had enough technical computer interests that early on. Okay, so and then where did you go? Business economics. Then you went to university somewhere? You went to school somewhere?
First in Cologne. And then when it came to basically the studies, I mean, for me, the studies were okay. They were very theoretical, and I was a little bit bored, to be honest. So plus I needed money because life during college is expensive. So I started working in various jobs alongside of it.
I know, but I thought it was free. Essentially.
It is free, but I mean, if you have to pay for rent, if you have to pay for all the partying that you do when you're younger, I mean, those costs.
Okay, let's get into that. Okay, should we get into that? Because I almost dropped out my first year when I went to. I had no business going to college. Oh my God, Martin. Oh my God. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. We did nothing but drink and smoke weed. There was nothing else to do. And so when I went to Arizona State, because I had a pulse and could get in, and my parents had been snowbirding there. Oh my God. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know anything. I got away with murder in high school. You know, the charm. I'd just tell a couple jokes. Teacher would put me through, you know. Does this surprise anyone? So yeah, my first year, I got the letter. Hey, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to Arizona State University. But you know, you're going to have to take the whole year over, essentially, over the summer. I know it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade. Yeah. But we're going to, here's that, or we have some lovely parting gifts for you. Thanks so much for coming. I was paying out-of-state tuition at the time, which is nothing now, but at the time was a big deal. My father, let's just say my father was not a happy guy. Mm-hmm. See, I didn't know. I grew up pretty much wealthy, that I had no clue that first of all, spoiled rotten by a Jewish mother who did everything for me. And second of all, my father did very well in a small town in the middle of Iowa. I got to go do a bunch of stuff. I didn't know it though at the time. I just was like, is this how it is? But back to you. This is about you. So you're doing odd jobs. We all did that. I sold T-shirts. You do what you got to do.
Yeah, and thankfully, I mean, I had really good professors or like lecturers that were well connected in the space. So I was able to kind of get via different kind of people that recommended me to different kind of agencies in the public relations space, in the communication space, and then of course also did certain internships alongside it, more in the product marketing space. So I was exposed a lot to this, and it really kind of suited me, and it was more in tune with what I wanted to do. And I think the time as a paramedic really taught me that you need to do a task very carefully and accurately, because like one mistake can be the decisive difference between life or death. And that sticks with you, right? I mean, whatever you do afterwards, I think you are not going to just kind of be very I don't know, lenient on certain things. And that can be a curse at times, right? Because you cannot simply let go, which is not necessarily something that one can be too proud of, but it certainly played in my favor at this time.
I mean, that's the time we all make mistakes. That's the time when you're figuring out what you can do, what you can't do. But it sounds like you tried stuff, because I tell young people that don't know what they want to do, which is most of them, you just got to go do some stuff. And then it's almost more important to find out what you don't like versus what you do like. You'll find along the way. Okay. So you get there, now I did hear on one thing, on one of the 47 podcasts you were on, which is fantastic. I applaud that you were in a PR company. Was that your first gig out of college, or were you still kind of taking classes doing that, where you wrote some email that got away and it was an embarrassing moment, or it was a big lesson? Yeah, it wasn't.
No,
nobody died, but you did.
This was still during my studies. And I mean, this one moment I will always or never forget. Right, I was working at a PR agency, doing an internship, and they basically asked me to send out an email to all of the kind of press and journalists saying that Microsoft killed a switch, like something very technical. And I basically did so, but I accidentally basically made a mistake in the title, saying Microsoft kills which. And believe me, this got a lot of traction, and a lot of journalists were very interested in it.
This is your first newsletter that was not really a newsletter, right? This is the first Martin Heubel. This is Consultors' first actual newsletter, and you're like, oh,
that's right. Yeah. It was very embarrassing, but well, here we are.
But what a hook! You really you were clicking.
Yeah. I think it was the highest converting email blast that we sent out at this week.
Okay, so you get through that, and then did you have another gig after school, or were you like, did Amazon come after you right out of university or during there and go, hey, come over here?
I mean, so in Germany or in Europe, you have this weird thing. You do first a bachelor, and then usually it's very difficult to kind of land a job because it's so competitive. The job market is so competitive. So while in the UK, for example, it's very common to leave college after doing a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. In Germany, the market's more competitive. So for me, after I concluded my studies in Germany, I realized, okay, in order to be able to kind of compete in this market and to land a good job, I would need two more experiences. One, a little bit more international exposure. And then second of all, also a postgraduate degree. And this is then when also doing my studies, I, of course, saved a lot and was able to look beyond the pond, right? Okay, what is else out there? The US was too far and too expensive. So the UK was very intriguing to me, and in particular London, where I then applied to different universities, ended up at the University of London, did basically my postgraduate degree in international marketing there.
Oh, wow.
And then basically started to apply for jobs, right?
Okay.
Back in Germany, because this was the original plan. I just basically have a stint in the UK, get some international exposure, go back to Germany and see what happens there. And for me, I applied across various sectors. I didn't have a strong preference, so I applied to consumer goods manufacturers, tech companies.
Right.
And then what was always intriguing for me, particularly when I saw the job application of Amazon, and I think it was for a very generalistic job description, was that they are operating at such a sheer scale, even though they were already such a mature company.
Right.
And I didn't think of it much. Like, I was sending my application, I was not really pouring my heart into it, but just a few days later, I got a call from them, and they invited me basically to come to their headquarters in Munich in Germany. And I knew that this would be the beginning of quite an exciting journey. And I was fortunate enough to, I think they had some kind of Excel tests that you needed to do during the job application process. So I remember the night before I actually had the job interview at Amazon, I was sat down in my hotel room and I was just opening up Microsoft Excel on my computer. The problem was I had a Mac computer. So when I then actually sat in the job interview, of course, it was like, I don't know what laptop it was, but it ran on Microsoft. And I didn't know the shortcuts, and I was like, "Oh my god, I will never land this job." But thankfully, the interviewer was quite forgiving at this moment. So I think I needed to show them how to do a VLOOKUP, so it wasn't too crazy at the same time.
Okay, because VLOOKUPs on Mac is a little different. Anyway, yes. Back to what year are we at here? Just to the chronological. I mean, as
This must have been 2015, 2016.
2015, 2016. Okay. So Amazon at that time is as far as globally growing, right? Their international business is still, honestly, it's going, but it's in the tank. I mean, it hasn't get a profit. They don't have the infrastructure over there. There's a lot of complexities and what have you. So the other thing is, so you didn't go through like the 17 layers of interview process at Amazon at that time? Because one of my questions was, what was the craziest? You know, they have these crazy bar raising questions where they're like, you're a tree in the middle of the desert. How do you get water? I mean, they have some weird shit going on. Did you have
you do. I mean, of course, you have like, I think there was a phone screening involved first where you needed to answer certain mathematical questions. And then you basically got fairly straightforwardly invited to the headquarters. And then you had like, I think 5 interviews with 5 different stakeholders. One of them was a bar raiser. Bar raiser at Amazon means that you need to basically be better than 50% of the existing workforce at the level that they're hiring for. So that you're basically increasing the bar at which everyone operates inside of the company, and that they are getting an influx of good talent, so to say. So you go through that, but I feel they're, of course, a little bit more forgiving when you're just coming out of university, because they know that they want a very general profile. They don't want to have really a specialist profile, because they know that their own processes, their leadership principles will form you and shape you in a certain way. And as long as you are, I think, bringing the right attitude, you're ready to work, you're ready to kind of invest the time in order to learn the processes and not basically accept a simple yes or no at the get-go. I think this is what usually they were looking for at this time.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, Martin. You were part of that phase of Amazon, and where you ended up, that was the MBA phase. That was
absolutely.
that. And you know what? Shout out to you, because if you didn't go get that MBA, if you didn't go get that postgraduate in London, I don't know if we would have ever met. We might have not ever met, because that was a time, and in the US, we're complaining because they just have all these really smart people. They have no idea about retail, consumer goods. They don't know what they're coming in. They're spreadsheet people. You manage by exception, right? So again, you know what? Shout out you. Way to go.
I appreciate it. It was a long way, but look, I think, and this is sometimes what I can just recommend to any young folks listening to us, right? If you're early in your career, you need to try and make as many mistakes as you can.
Oh yeah,
because that's the only way to learn and to fall forward. I think nowadays our society often expects to get the prize without putting in the work, and I think this is often a problem, especially in the age of AI, right? Which I know will be coming a little bit later on too, but
no, we're
you
not.
cannot lose your critical thinking. You need to kind
of
put in the work.
I don't give a shit about AI right now, Martin. I just want to know more about Martin Heubel. So you land the big gig, and you're like, oh my God. And Dad's like, it's not a dentist. It's not a dentist. I mean, was he ordering stuff on Amazon? Does anybody in your family know what Amazon's doing? Or you're just like, oh, Martin, he always loved computers. That was cute.
I think my dad made his peace with it fairly early onwards. I mean, he already realized when I didn't study medicine that it's probably not a future that is in for me, right? To become a dentist or a doctor. I don't think I would have been a very good one, because I think for this type of job, you really need to pour your heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't something that I liked. So I think he was supportive fairly early onwards. I think he, until this day, doesn't really understand what I do, but I think I speak for almost everyone listening to us today. I think parents and grandparents never really know what you're doing in this day and age.
No, my wife of 32 years, I've been doing this. She's like, well, I don't know what you do. People ask me, what does he do? Like, I don't know. He does something on Amazon. I don't know. He sells stuff. I'm not really sure what he does. He talks all day long, and he's very loud and obnoxious. So, but it's been good. Okay. So you go back to Munich. Now you're back in Germany, right? But you're making dough. I mean, you're living on top of the world, but you had to, at that time, it's more, not as much now. You live that job because you're working with the smartest, the brightest of the brightest. There's a huge I don't know. It's an unwritten competitive rule, right? Because you're with the best of the best. If you make it through, and there's just this, it's a wonderful culture. It's part of why they grow and why they did so well, especially in that time area. And I just will say anecdotally at that time, that's when Europe and so the two of the, UK and Germany, that's when you guys, the big CPGs are like, oh my God, we got to get our shit together over in Europe. These are big markets that were growing fast. So I don't want to talk too much about, you're doing the job. You're probably drinking through a fire hose. You're learning as quickly as possible. And then were you a vendor manager then, or where did you start?
I mean, I was originally hired as some kind of, ABS didn't exist back then, but basically as a strategic support for vendors in the household category. But on the first day on the job, basically everything was fine. I got my password for my computer and so on. On the second day, my manager comes to me and says, look, we are down 2 vendor managers in this category. Tomorrow you basically have to negotiate with these all big brands with hundreds of millions in revenue. And I heard he said that there's a negotiation training internally happening over the next week or so I would suggest you go there. And of course he was a great help, right? So it wasn't that I was left by myself, but it certainly was for me a light bulb moment of, okay, you really have to own your business here, right? They push you into the cold water, and I've never been exposed to these kind of big trade negotiations, or nobody ever really negotiated anything in my life beforehand.
Well, you didn't know what you were negotiating. Life is just one big negotiation. It turns out that we're constantly negotiating, but yes. So what are you doing outside of work here? Where is Martin hanging out? Or did you find what is life like as Martin Heubel? That's what I'm more interested in. What were you doing? What were you into? Did you have side hustles, side gigs? I don't want to get into the fact that Amazon, nobody listens to this. They don't really train people. They have all these automated systems now that do that, but they kind of do throw you in the water. They feet first, they just throw you in. But what are you doing outside? How are you figuring out, had you lived in Munich, or was that a new city for you?
It was a new city. I grew up next to, the central western part of Germany. So Munich was for me a completely new city, no friends, no acquaintances. So for me, I was living there for full 2 years before I came back to London. And for me, it was more of like, okay, getting on my foot there, making friends, meeting people, right? Getting out and about and living the opportunities that you have. Munich is in the southern Bavarian part of Germany, so really in the south. And the benefit, or big benefit to that, is that it's close to the Alps. So in the summer, like, there's beautiful lakes. It has so many opportunities where you can go for a hike, where you can go with your mountain bikes into the mountains and just kind of be in nature. So I try
you did that,
make use of that as much as possible.
Did you do mountain bike? Were you an outdoors person before growing up? Did you skiing or mountain biking or hiking or camping? Was that a big part of your life?
So when I was little, hiking more so. I learned, I think, skiing a little bit later when I was like 12 or 13 years. But I made use of it when I was in my time in Munich, like during the winter period.
God, you had to have been loaded. You're making good coin.
I think you're mistaking how much it takes. Skiing is not cheap for sure, but I wouldn't say that I was loaded. I would say it's quite the contrary, because look, in Germany you pay nearly, like, I think it's 40-45% in taxes.
Yeah, so I know. But
even if you make decent money, like, it's not that it all lands in your pocket, right?
Well, speaking of that, then you decided, let's go move back to the most expensive city in the world.
Well, the benefit here is, right, the benefit is that moving to London, that your salary gets adjusted to the living conditions. And I think this reverts for a lot of people as well, who are moving out of London and expect to get a London salary, which is also not the case.
So you go there. That was obviously very formative, right? You worked there, you were 5 years, and then you moved from Munich. You're living high. You created a whole friend circle, and you're hanging out. How old are you now at this time? Are you 20?
So I lived in Munich for 2 years, and then basically I transferred with Amazon over to the UK and to London, and worked there another 2.5 to 3 years. So I was in totality nearly 5 years at Amazon.
But did they say, hey, Martin, we need you over in the UK? You're doing a good
No,
job.
I was actively pursuing it. I mean,
Okay.
I liked to be in Germany for the first year or 1.5 years in Amazon. But what I quickly realized is that they mostly executed the strategies that came from the US into the UK and then from the UK to the other parts of Europe. So it wasn't really attractive from a personal development point of view after your learning curve from the beginning started to
Yeah.
become a little bit more flat. And I knew that if I wanted to be more part of the main decisions that Amazon makes for the wider European area, I would need to kind of go closer to actually the Seattle headquarter. I didn't want to kind of go to the US because I didn't want to be so far away from my family. So the UK, and given that I've studied there before, was the kind of obvious choice.
So you like your family?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Okay, no.
Of course. No. Okay. So you moved to London. We're working. Okay, but that's good. And so you get settled there. But then, do you know from your university days, do you have some mates that you know? I mean, you liked warm beer. I don't know what you went back to London. Did you at least have a social life there?
London was easier to settle in than Munich because I studied there for a full year in my postgraduate degree. And I mean, most of my friends that I made during this time were still in or around London at least, and are friends that I have until even since today, right? So it was a nice coming back. So from a private and leisure time perspective, it was good, but quite frankly, I mean, you work so much at Amazon, like sometimes 70, 80 hours per week, that there's not too much time to party and to go out as the British culture invites you to do. So for me, it was more, I mean, this is why I turned self-employed, because at one point I worked so much that I was like reflecting on one day when I walked home with myself that, look, I wouldn't even work so much if I would be working for myself. So why am I doing it for a company that clearly has the money to just hire more people to do my job instead of leaving it to me to do it? And then I said, basically, I think this was in the 4th year of being at Amazon, I made the decision to eventually move out. I was due still a promotion, so I was kind of working towards that just to tick off the box for me and my personal ambition. But I think it was like 3 or 4 months after my promotion to a senior category manager at Amazon that I said, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, to this day, even people outside, they don't, it's a pretty flat org chart. Like, it's not like there's just massive opportunity to go up and up and up. God, when you were there, they changed the compensation, and I'm sure they did it differently in global markets, but radically, right? You made it through the 2-year gauntlet, which is really still, it's different today, but they weren't paying people big bucks. They were just having the golden handcuffs on you after 2 years investing. And that was when you were there and what have you. And I hope you made out like a champ there. So you basically want to get your life back. Okay. Let's just bring it up. You want to do, but you could have worked for yourself in a billion different things. You could have became, I don't know. There was probably all kinds of different things. I mean, maybe, what were you thinking then? By the way, you're working with all the biggest brands, managing a lot of zeros, millions and billions. And so that had to be informative. Like, okay, I've met all these people. I know they're actually just real humans like I am, right? They do the same. They're just managing and the pressures and the political things. And so you probably were informed by that. And how did you put a little a whiteboard up and be like, I could do this, this, and this? Or how did you start Consultors? What made you get there? And what were you doing for fun, by the way? Did you take some time off and go have some goddamn fun? Jesus.
I did a little bit. I mean, when you roll out of Amazon, I basically took like 3 to 6 months the foot off the gas, right?
What did you do? Did you go travel around? Did you go just hang out in a pub all day?
I did travel. I mean, it's one of my hobbies, right? I really like to kind of travel, kind of ticking off some boxes on countries that I really wanted to visit, particularly in around Europe, or also now more recently Asia, right? So Vietnam, Thailand.
Did you go there?
And most recently China. And not at this time. I mean, I was traveling more in Europe, visiting friends that I haven't seen in my time at Amazon too much, just to kind of get more face time with them.
Like,
but long-haul travel became a priority afterwards, to be honest. And I didn't have the money back then to finance it as well.
Sorry, by the way, I was going to say, social media. I think you have like 30 followers on Instagram. We got to work on that on the Instagram.
Yeah, that can be. I'm not an avid Instagram user, to be honest.
The crack staff and we really tried to dig deep on your social media. He has none, ladies and gentlemen. There's not there. You're not going to find.
I just live on LinkedIn. I'm sorry to say.
No,
the rest is all in real life.
Okay, so you travel. God, did you go skiing? Did you go hiking? I mean, I would have just hung out in a pub and probably just watched. I would have went to a lot of shows because London has a great theater. You know, I would have just lived it up, man. I probably would have spent more than I should have. That's what I would have done.
I think it was more boring, to be honest, than
you can
make it out. I was visiting friends in different cities in Europe, particularly in Germany, right? So I was actually in London. I was working like long hours for 2.5 years. So I tried to kind of see family, friends, and so on. And then at the same time, I mean, don't forget, you also have to kind of start thinking about, okay, how do you now create processes? What do you work on in order to finance your lifestyle? Because what I think is never talked about when somebody becomes self-employed is you do not get any structure. You look at an empty calendar that has 40 plus hours available to you, and you need to tread very carefully in deciding, okay, what are the things that you're going to work on that eventually will lead to revenue? And that freaks you out. So even though I would love to have enjoyed this period of my life a little bit more, I think the anxiety at some point creeps in that, look, if you're not starting to kind of think of what you have to do in order to get clients, it's becoming very difficult. And I think what you also see is that, of course, you need to create your new network. If you're inside of Amazon, you're, of course, are exposed to a lot of people, but they see you as a representative of the company. And then when you're out on your own, you no longer have this benefit. So you need to kind of start creating your own name, your own reputation, and build trust, which takes its time, right? It's not built from one day to the other.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in the anxiety of that. People think you just popped up on LinkedIn and all of a sudden you're running a multi-million-dollar consulting service, and it's just not. That's not the truth. That's not how it goes. But I would imagine at that time, as you're looking at options, and to your point, like, how do I get this engine started? You could have gotten any job you wanted, Martin. You had 5 years of Amazon, your internal network. If you would, and to this day, if you have Amazon on your resume and your LinkedIn, wrong or right? I mean, you get too much credit and not enough credit in some regards. But you could have had the pick of the litter at that time. Why didn't you just go get another job and make big bucks?
I think it depends a lot on who you have in your first couple of years as a manager. And at Amazon, I was very fortunate to have a very good manager for the first 2 years or so of my career, and then very varying levels of managers that were sometimes really good in some things and some that were really horrible, both at the human as well as the professional level.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, it became clear that I think I didn't want to kind of have this unpredictability anymore, because at Amazon, I think I had 8 or 9 managers in my 5 years, different managers.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, of course, everyone fluctuates so quickly. Yeah. And if you realize that it's not up to you to decide, I mean, imagine this, you basically interview for a job, you think the manager is a good fit, and then you take on the job and the role, and within 2 weeks, they're moving out and somebody else comes in, and the job is entirely different than what you imagined.
Yes.
This is a problem, right? And for me, I mean, I knew I wanted to be in an environment where I'm working on very complex problems, difficult problems, but still with smart people. And I think for me, it became evident that I didn't want to get employed, at least not immediately afterwards, but be my own boss and thereby have the predictability of how I shape my career going forward and who I'm working with, right? Because the benefit here is also, well, although this is also not talked about, right? I mean, you get to choose whom to work with, and you can say no to clients that come and knock on your door. When you're
starting, you don't say no to anybody.
Not at the beginning, right? And this is, of course, what you need to think about. But over time, and I mean, this goes for everyone who's in the game, I think, for multiple years, you become a little bit more selective because, of course, you sometimes have clients or prospects coming in that are simply not a good fit. And you said yes to originally because you needed the revenue.
Yeah.
But at some point you realize it's not a win for them, it's not a win for you. And if you wake up with anxiety and you do not want to go to work, even if you work for yourself, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Okay, but I mean, your dad's a dentist, a teacher. I'm trying to put the pieces together of how you internally, this entrepreneurial little bug in you and this little spirit in you. I mean, you didn't have my dad worked for himself, had his own company. That's all I knew. His family business was all entrepreneurial. Like I didn't know any other life existence than running your own business. That's all I knew. How did you? Because it takes the kuyans. It takes I laugh at when you say predictability. I mean, you're in the most unpredictable business of all time. I mean, people can take you or leave you and drop you. You don't own anything. So where did this come from? Was this a mentor? Was this like an Amazonian who left and started on their own and kind of gave you some confidence?
For me, it was just being fed up working so much for somebody else.
Yeah.
And for me, this was the realization of why do I not just go out and do something? Because the problem when you're working inside of Amazon as well is you realize you don't have much transferable knowledge or skill sets besides using Excel, because all of the programs that they're using are specifically developed for Amazon, so they don't exist in the outside world. And I mean, there's not much you can do, right?
This is the other funniest thing.
Another job, but
this is the other funniest thing you and I talk about before we hit record. Is like everyone thinks Amazon's a tech company, and they are a tech company at the root. Yeah. Everybody imagines once you go work there that you have the coolest shit, you have the coolest data. No. It's archaic as hell. Half the time, me as a rep coming in, I had more tools and more stuff than the internal people. I would have my vendor manager call me, go, hey, what are you seeing on this? And then before, when you were there, they had an AWS, hadn't completely, right? They were on Oracle. They were using Oracle for their internal system, which was 87,000 layers of fixes on top of fixes. Anyway, we don't want to get into
the amount of spreadsheets I've been working in at Amazon, like in Excel, right? That had macros and VBA and all of this. Like it's insane. And I think, I mean, you get very good at Excel when you work for Amazon, but you need to look very hard at, okay, what other tools, etc., can you really transfer your knowledge with? So for me, it was like, okay, if I want to have complete control of what I'm doing, I need to do it for myself. And I also saw that I really was intrigued and just kind of understanding, but also helping people understand how Amazon really works. Because at my time there, I mean, I gave the same advice that I give now, right? But if you're representing the company, I mean, everyone thinks you're basically just doing it in the interest of them. Whereas I think there was a lot of a knowledge gap that needed to be filled on how brands can effectively succeed with Amazon. It's not about going against them. It's about making them understand why their strategies that they have used in the offline world don't necessarily work with this online retailer, and then bridging that gap so that both parties can continuously doing business with each other. And I think this is where the educational teacher part from my mom comes through.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
When you listen to the problems in the beginning that prospects come with you to, and you basically have to think of a solution, this is where I think the doctor part comes through, because you're listening to a problem. But if somebody says, hey, I need a heart transplant, I mean, nobody comes to you like that, right? And sometimes you need to calm down prospects who say, look, I have this problem, I need that, and potentially they need a different solution or different medicine in that case.
Yeah, you have to diagnose. See, this is all putting together. Now that I know you're a paramedic, I know about the dentist part, I know about this is all making sense, right? This is all, what's your problem? Let me diagnose the problem. Let me think about some solutions, some prescriptions I want to get you into. This is all making sense. And then where did you learn how to write? Were you just kind of a natural writer? Because I think you do a great job, even before AI and before all the other tricks and tools that can help you. I thought your ability to concise and is interesting. I don't know where you were taught that.
Self-taught. I mean, I followed a lot of copywriters. I think back in the time, Copyblogger was a very famous platform that had a lot of good tips and tricks. But to be honest, like it just happens when you do it a lot. And I started to write on LinkedIn, I think, as early as in 2017, 2018. And when you go back, I mean, it will take you a while because I publish now quite a lot. But if you go to some of the first posts that I published, I mean, you're seeing the evolution of bad writing, okay writing, average writing, and better writing.
Yeah.
And that's evolution, which I think is quite interesting because LinkedIn, for all what it's worth, it's a very honest feedback platform.
Yes.
Depending on how you write, how you text it, how easy you make it for people to comprehend what you're actually trying to say. Yeah. Typically, it also then starts resonating with a broader group, which then also leads to all of the right signals that you're going after. And I personally do not optimize just for reach. I also optimize more for engagement, because if I can find and if I can engage the right stakeholders, which is the industry of mostly first-party vendors, this is my mission. I do not need to have viral posts that have 100,000 or more in reach.
Quality. Okay, but outside of this, now let's skip to the current thing. Okay, you got London. You've kind of set some roots in London. You're living in London. You're a married guy. You're an old married guy. I mean, are you in London? Is this where we are? What are you doing for fun?
So I think, I mean, for the foreseeable future, London will be the home of both my wife and I. We like the international vibe. We have our life here. Maybe in the future, we will eventually kind of move more to a sunnier country. I mean, my wife is Portuguese, so this would be an option. But I think it's more of a long-term plan than anything immediate, because we both have our careers, obviously, also in London as well.
I mean, is she, again, I don't want to go out. Is she in the same industry as you or completely different?
She works in the consumer healthcare space, basically.
Okay. So you guys are living large in London. And then what do you guys do for fun, Martin? What does Martin do when he's not talking, writing? He's not in the coffee shop for I don't know how long on Saturday mornings, writing amazing content.
Working out, trying to hit the gym at least 3 to 4 times a week. I work with a personal trainer every now and then. That particularly transformed my diet. I love to travel, taking off quite a few countries recently, particularly in Asia.
Yeah.
Think of the likes of Vietnam, Japan, and most recently China. So usually my wife and I plan one big trip per year, usually around May or June, where we're trying to kind of just opt out for 2 or 3 weeks and just kind of travel those countries and really not just stay in one city, but really travel all around. And for example, China was fascinating. It's just a good way of switching off entirely and not having any kind of ties to work and just exploring different cultures and how people.
I mean, do you watch shows? I mean, you guys going somewhere, you're watching movies, you go down and have dinner. I mean, what's.
Oh, of course. I mean, we're going out too much, to be honest. Like, we love eating out in restaurants. The problem is we often always go back to the same places because we know it's good food, and London is a very expensive city. So if we spend our money, then we want good food.
Yeah, but you got 2 incomes. You're dinks. You got double income, no kids. You guys, this is I tell everybody. I had a kid when I was 27 years old. I'm hosed. I've been one income forever.
Look at the London rental prices.
But
we like to go out and enjoy life, of course, but I think it's less exciting than you may imagine.
Do you like, again, one of the greatest compliments you ever gave the show was you had to stop listening while you were working out because you were laughing while you were lifting or something. That made my heart happy. What kind of music do you listen to? I mean, what are you into music? Is your wife into stuff? Has she gotten you into different hobbies that you weren't, that's what happened. My wife got me in all kinds of shit. I had no idea.
House music, electronic music. So that's probably the most surprising fact about me, but always has been, always will be, I think.
What are we talking about?
I mean, usually typical house music, tech house, electronic, sometimes a little bit harder, like artists like Marlon Hofstedt, Malugi, Dom Dollar, Heubel, for example. Those are the typical kind of artists.
I have no idea what you're talking
follow actively, but it may not make any sense to you.
Is this like?
And then,
is this? Are you going clubbing? Are you going clubbing with the wife at night? Are you going just?
I haven't in a long time, but we used to. Yes.
2026. What have you planned the big trip? Are you guys still sorting out where the big trip's going to be? I don't want to give anything away here. I mean,
we haven't planned anything. Okay. I'll be in the US, actually, in Salt Lake City for the Pattern Accelerate event on the 21st.
Are you serious? When is that?
21st and 22nd of May this year. So let's link up there.
Oh my God. I got to talk to my boys at Pattern. I got to talk to Robbie Hahn.
Absolutely.
I got to hook a brother up. I can get down to Salt Lake City.
You should come. It will be fun. I mean, I will be hosting a mastermind class about Amazon, and I mean, hopefully I'll have some time to kind of see the city as well. But we'll probably have to plan another trip later this year, either going to Japan or somewhere else. We haven't quite figured that out yet.
All right. Well, this has been fantastic. I feel like I know this. you've just answered so many different. Now I get why you are the way you are, why you write, why you think the way you think is because you were formed, right? I mean, we're all like this. You are. I mean, the dentist, the teacher. This is who you are. This is amazing.
That's it.
And the paramedic. God, that's fascinating. So
that's a fun fact about me that most people don't know about.
I know. I've tried to uncover a few. I don't think I got a lot out of you, but anyway, thank you for being the first, the victim here of People Matter. You've always been so kind to us, so kind to me. I hope to that would be phenomenal to actually meet you in real person. What are you, like 6'5"? You look like a tall guy. Program weight and height. I mean, you're a big fella.
I think it's 6'1" or 6'2".
Okay. You just never know.
I think I'm shrinking with age, right? So by the time we see each other, I'll probably only 6 feet tall.
My daughters tease me about that all the time. They come over, like, are you shrinking? I'm like, yeah, that's what happens. That's just sorry. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for
having me, Scott. It was a pleasure. And let's link up in Salt Lake City.
Let's go on Salt Lake City. Until next time, bye.
Hey there, this is Haley from Quickfire, and they want me to read this so you know what this podcast is part of and how to find out more if you want. Always Off Brand is a production of Quickfire LLC and a part of the Learn and Laugh series on the Quickfire Podcast Network. For more information, go to quickfirenow.com. Have a good one, and thanks for listening.